everyone, it's Mrs. Martinez with Martinez Art Lab. Today what we're going to do is go in and work in Adobe Photoshop 2020, and we're going to make a digital collage by bringing in multiple photographs and piecing them all together. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure Photoshop is open. Then I am going to click open on the left hand side, and I'm going to bring in the first of my photographs, whichever photograph I want as my background. So this is going to be my background, and I just double clicked on that. Every time I bring in a layer, I'm going to want to make sure I take care of that layer so I can keep my layers organized. So with my background, I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to double click and I'm going to rename it background skeleton so I know which layer it is. Now I'm going to bring in my second image by going to File, Place Embedded, and I will bring in this water scene again just by double clicking on it. I'm going to double click on the title, and I'm going to title it Lake Michigan because that's the body of water it is. And then I'm going to left click and click rasterize layer. That part is really important because when I rasterize the layer, it makes me able to edit that layer. Now, the reason why we're naming our layers is going to get clearer as I bring in more and more photographs. So we've got two. I'm going to bring in a third by going to File, Place Embedded. I'm going to bring in this, and now I'm going to do the same thing. Double click on the title. Rainbow peace sign is what I will name it. Click off to the side, left click, and rasterize that layer. I'm going to bring in two more images, so I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, bring in this first piece of art, double click on the title, title it Op Art 1, rasterize that layer by left clicking. Then I'm going to bring in my final one by going back to File, Place Embedded, and double clicking. And that same thing. That one I'm going to name Op Art 2, and I will rasterize it by left clicking, rasterize layer. So I've got all these images in here now. Couple of reminders. When you're working with layers, you can click the eye, and it will hide that layer. And right now I'm going to hide the last three I brought in because we're going to be working with these last two layers. So what I'm going to do is take the bottom, and let me move this out of the way. I'm going to take the bottom of this desk out and leave the skeleton and the blue wall and everything above that here. So first thing I need to do is make sure I click on the layer I'll be editing. I'm going to be editing Lake Michigan here, so I'm going to click on that layer. I'm going to click on the picture, and then I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, and Scale because I'm going to make this image a little bit larger. So I'm bringing it down. I'm just going to make it large enough so that the water is taking up most of that bottom. So I'm just double checking myself. Okay, that looks about right there. So I'm going to click this check mark. Shows that I've scaled it the way I want it. And now I'm going to use a selection tool. Actually, I don't need to use my selection tool. So I just made a mistake. I accidentally selected, and now I'm just going to go up to select and deselect. Now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to hide this for just a minute. I'm going to go back to my skeleton layer, and I'm going to put a mask on this layer. So I'm going to select the desk, and the desk is in three parts here, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to use my magnetic tool, and I'm going to just click right along, click, click, and just go right along. I'm not worried about perfection today because this is just a tutorial, but if I were working on this project, I might want to change this to a larger percentage that I see on screen. I've selected part of this desk, but now I need to select in here and over here. So what I'm going to do is hold down Shift on my keyboard, and I'm going to select. So I'm making the same selection, and this whole time I'm holding down Shift on my keyboard while I'm making this selection. Okay, now this little piece I need to select as well, so I'm holding down Shift, making the selection. After I've made my selection, I can let go of Shift. Now I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. So hold down Shift again. If I don't hold down Shift, I'm going to have to start over. So I want to make sure that I'm holding down Shift. Now I need to select in here and over here. So my goal is selecting everything on this desk. Holding down Shift. Now I'm going to be pretty careful here. I'm going to make as good of a selection as I can, and then I'll go back in with the eraser tool. So I let go of Shift, I'm holding it down again to make this last selection, and I'm going to go in later with the eraser tool to kind of fix what didn't get selected. So it's like here where it didn't select all the way. Okay, so this was most of my selection that I had. I can do a couple things, and one of them is I can just delete this space. I'm not too worried about having this space there. Or I could go in and I could add a layer mask, which is what I'm going to show you. So my layer mask is down here. I've selected that. It added a layer mask to the wrong thing. So I forgot to do one step. So I'm going to go up to edit and undo add layer mask. And now I'm going, right now I've got the desk selected, but I want everything but the desk selected. So I'll go to select and inverse, and that selects everything else. And now I'm going to bring back my layer mask. So now I can click add a layer mask. Right now there's nothing there, but that's because I need to take this layer, change the position, put it above Lake Michigan, and all I did was left click and drag, bring my Lake Michigan back in sight, and it's almost the way I want it. Now, in order to have this exactly right, I need to erase all those little parts. So I'll go up to my eraser, and I'm just left clicking and dragging. But now I need to go in and get it really small to make sure I'm erasing what I want. I don't want any of that gray there, right? So, and now I'll show you what you can do to make this larger. So I'll double click on 16, it's 16% right now. I'll put it at 30%, and it's made it larger, so it's a lot easier for me to erase. The larger it is, the less you will see it in your final piece. So you want to try and go as large as you can and still be able to see everything. So let's try 100% and see what that gets us. I think that's going to be a good number here. So I'm just deleting the bits of desk between the skeleton because that takes away from our beautiful Lake Michigan scene. And you can see I'm making my eraser smaller as I'm using it. I'm using a keyboard shortcut, which are the brackets on my keyboard. So every time I click the left bracket, it makes my eraser smaller. Every time I click the right bracket, it'll make my eraser larger. These are colors that I might be able to use my magic wand on. So I'll click my magic wand tool and click right on this color and press delete on my keyboard or backspace if you're not on a Mac. And this is going to erase like colors. So because it erased part of that bone, I'm not going to use that. And it looks like we're pretty safe here. So I will delete that one. And then I'll go back to my eraser tool and start erasing. I have to go to select and deselect though and start erasing again. So that took out some work for me. I won't need to go in and delete those parts now. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but I don't want any huge pieces of this table sitting there. So we'll make our eraser a little bit bigger. And go in and erase that last little bit. Okay, now we'll take this back down to 15% so we can see the whole thing. And you can see now it looks pretty nice and clean. He looks like he's just hanging out on the water at this point. We're gonna take our move tool. Okay, and just fixing everything a little bit. So now that we've got that part of our scene ready, we can go in and add these last 3 images. I'm gonna click the eye on this one. I'm going to enlarge this image, make sure I'm on the right layer. So I'll click that layer and I'm going to go to edit and transform. I'm gonna scale that to make it a little bit larger. I'm just gonna put this on, do I wanna replace the clock? I kinda like the clock. So I'll put this over on the board, kind of maybe like as a magnet. So it doesn't need to be that big, but I'm gonna go ahead and use my let's try our magic wand, because remember our magic wand selects light colors, but because that table is like a mix of browns, it'll be too, it'll take more time than anything to select that. So I'm going to use my magnetic lasso tool again. My first and last click end in the same spot. I'm going to press delete on my keyboard. I deleted the wrong thing. Hopefully you all know why, but I'm going to go up to edit and undo clear. And then I'm going to go to select and inverse. When I inverse, it selects everything but my original selection. I can click delete on my keyboard or backspace if you're not on a Mac. Okay, now I can go up to select and deselect, and I can move this wherever I'd like it. Now that it's on the white background, I can see I made a little mistake there. So I'll go to my tool and my eraser tool, and I will just erase that real quick. Again, these are all little details that matter when you're turning in a project. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to my op art. I click the eye to bring it back. I'm gonna click on the layer. I definitely need to scale that because that's small. So I'm gonna go to edit and transform, scale. I need to make this larger. And then I'm gonna click the check, that's the right size. But now I want to edit, transform, and go to rotate. And as soon as I see those arrows, I can left click and drag to rotate it the way I'd like it and move it where I'd like it, and then click the check. Then I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to go to the right layer, bring the eye back, click the layer. I'm going to go to edit, transform. I'm going to scale that larger. And then I'm going to click check. And now I need, oops, I accidentally erased. So I'm going to go to edit and undo eraser. Now I'm going to go to edit, transform, and rotate. And I'm going to rotate this to where I want it. And click the check. And then I can click my move tool and move it. So I think I'll let it kind of run off the page like this. Okay, and then I'm going to click off to the side. So here's my digital collage that I've made, kind of this surreal world. Right now, I just want to remind you, if you're watching this and I went too fast for you, you can stop the video, you can rewind the video, and you can rewatch the video at any point. So the great thing about a video is you have the capability to do that. So you can be using any types of photographs. I encourage you to use your own photographs that you can use to create your own digital collage. Have fun.